Hola clase. Tomorrow we're going to work with construcciones con se, or se constructions. There are two kinds of se constructions that we're going to talk about right now. One is passive voice construction, which in English gets translated by things like one, as in one can learn to dance if one makes the effort. You, as in you can learn to speak Chinese if you work hard. Or sometimes by is or are. For example, cars are sold at the car lot on Sunday. The second kind of construction we're going to talk about are involuntary actions. This is a little different from English, and what basically happens is with certain verbs, for example with forget in Spanish, you can express that you didn't really mean to forget something, that it basically forgot itself, sort of. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. ¿Qué significan estos ejemplos? Okay, I want you to have a look at the following examples, and we're going to do a little inducción here. I want you guys to try to figure out what these mean, okay? Keeping in mind that we're talking about the first kind of se construction, passive voice. So given what I just told you on the first slide, can you figure out what these sentences mean? The first one is se come helado en la heladería. The second one is se habla portugués en Brasil. Okay, the third example is se tomaron muchas radiografías. And the fourth is se vendían camisas en la tienda de ropa. So again, take a couple minutes, okay? Pause the presentation and see if you can write translations to these. See if you can figure out what's going on and how they work. ¿Qué es la voz pasiva? The voz pasiva, or passive voice, is used to hide the personal subject of a sentence. In other words, to take out the personal aspect of the sentence. In English, for example, we say aspirin is sold at the pharmacy. Se vende aspirina en la farmacia in Spanish. Notice that the sentence tells us nothing about who's selling the aspirin at the pharmacy. We just know that it's being sold. Okay, so we took out the person who was selling the aspirin. In Spanish, we construct sentences with a hidden personal subject using the pronoun se. And yes, this is the same se that we use in reflexive constructions, but these are not reflexive constructions. Don't confuse them with se, for example, Javi se ducha cada mañana. Okay, we don't want to confuse them. Okay, so, for example, se recetan pastillas en el consultorio. Notice how in this sentence the se is used here instead of a personal subject like el doctor or la médica. So we don't have the doctor in this case prescribing the pills. Well, it's implied that he's prescribing them or she is prescribing them. But in terms of what's written in the sentence, we don't really know who is prescribing. We just know that they're being prescribed. Of course, we can infer that it's a doctor. Again, in se vende aspirina en la farmacia, the verb vende agrees with the noun or subject aspirina, the third person singular. Okay, we have to make our verb, in other words, it's kind of like gustar, make it agree with the thing being sold in this case, okay, with the thing being acted on by the verb. Okay, in the second example here that I just pulled up, se recetan pastillas en la farmacia, the verb recetar agrees with the noun pastillas. Okay, so we're going to use a third person plural form of the verb. Okay, notice that, again, a lot like gustar, the thing that's being acted on, the thing being prescribed, is pastillas, plural, so we make our verb agree with it. Therefore, in a certain way, these, like I just mentioned, these types of verbs function a lot like gustar verbs. Okay, and that the verb conjugation has to agree with the noun receiving the action. Often, you will see the construction se habla español aquí. This means, I'll give you a second to figure it out. Try to write it down. That's right. Okay, actually it can mean any number of things. It can mean any one of four possibilities. Here they are. It can mean they speak Spanish here, that they being very general. We don't know who that they refers to specifically. Spanish is spoken here. Again, we've taken the subject out altogether. One speaks Spanish here, or people speak Spanish here. Those are all good translations of se habla español aquí. If you had any of those, you're on the right track. Okay, careful when it comes to verb tense. Obviously, the present tense is going to function the same as we're used to. However, in the past tense, verb conjugations could appear in either the preterite or the imperfect tenses, depending on the grammatical rules for each tense, depending on which tense is the appropriate one to use. Okay, you can use se constructions, in other words, with present, pretérito, or imperfecto. For example, ayer, okay, ayer being a keyword indicating that preterite is coming, right? Se vendieron frutas en el mercado. Okay, so we had the thing being sold was frutas, it was plural, so our verb is plural, vendieron, but we're talking about ayer, and it's over and done with, completed action, so we're going to use pretérito. Cada domingo se vendían frutas en el mercado. Okay, in this example, on the other hand, every Sunday in the past, fruit was being sold or used to be sold in the market. So we're going to use imperfecto here. Algunos ejemplos. Okay, I want you to try to choose the best verb for each case. Give it a try on your own. Pause it and give it a try. You can just circle the correct verb. Okay, to wrap this up and to summarize what we just talked about, when we use a passive construction with se, okay, we have to always start our sentence or our phrase with se. Okay, then we're going to choose either, just like with gustar, we're either going to choose the third person singular or plural form of the verb, depending on the thing being spoken, in this case, hablar. Okay, so if we say se habla, so we're going to talk about Spanish, español, it's singular, so we would say se habla español. If we're going to talk about many languages, muchos idiomas, we would say se hablan muchos idiomas. We're going to have to have hablan. We're going to have the plural there. Try these examples. Traduzcan. Pause and translate. ¿Qué se vende en la farmacia y en la tienda de ropa? Try it out loud. Write down a couple of examples. Okay, write down at least one for each to bring to class tomorrow. Okay, now we're going to talk about the second kind of se construction, which expresses involuntary actions, or things that happened unexpectedly. Okay, in this kind of se construction, with just a small addition, we can express that something unexpected has occurred. The verb construction, the sentence construction, is always se, an indirect object pronoun like me, te, le, nos, os, or les, okay, and the verb, okay. The IOP, or the indirect object pronoun, agrees with the person to whom the action has happened, okay, the person who had this thing happen to them, okay. And again, we're going to have our verb is going to agree with the thing that was acted on somehow. So here are a couple of examples. Se me perdió el libro. Okay, I lost my book. What you're literally saying is the book got lost to me. Okay, the second example is we dropped the pencils. Se nos cayeron los lápices. Notice that we used se to start with. We used nos to talk about to whom people or to whom this happened. Okay, it happened to us. And cayeron, the verb fell, agrees with los lápices, the things that fell. Okay, so you're expressing that we didn't mean to drop the pencils. It was unexpected. It was involuntary. It just happened that way. Okay. These are the 6 most common verbs that we know that are used in involuntary constructions, and you should know these, okay? These are, if I had to choose 6 that I want you to memorize and know well, it would be these 6. Caer, to fall or to drop. Dañar, to damage or break down. Olvidar, to forget. Perder, remember it's a stem changer, to lose. Quedar, to be left behind or be left over. And romper, which we know well, to break. Cuidado. With these indirect object pronouns, we must often use the indirect object, okay? So not just the pronoun, but we might add emphasis, just like we would with gustar, okay? We might add a and then the person so that we can clarify to whom the indirect object pronoun refers. So if you're talking about me, you might say a mí, se me. With te, you're going to say a ti, se te. We could talk about any third person we want. A él, a ella, usted, Javi, okay? And then we would use se again and le in this case, plus our verb. A nosotros, se nos, verb. A vosotros, se os. There's our indirect object pronoun, and a vosotros refers back to it. A ellos, okay, we'd have third person plural emphasis like a ellos, a usted. As I was saying, a ellos, a ustedes, a Marta y Javi, okay, say again, we use les to go with those third person plural forms, and then the verb. Okay, I'd like you to pause here and choose the best indirect object pronoun for these involuntary actions. A ella se olvidó su tarea. What would you choose? Okay, try the other 2 right after. Okay, careful, number 3, there are 2 to choose, okay? Again, to whom did these things happen? That's what you've got to keep in mind. Go ahead and pause and try it. You can just circle, or you can just write down the answers on your sheet of paper. Okay, más ejemplos. In this one, I want you to choose, or on this page, I want you to choose the best verb form based on what you're seeing, okay? Which form of the verb will go best with the, in the first case, for example, radiografías, dos radiografías, the things being acted on, okay? Pause it and give it a try. Write down your answers. Bring them to class tomorrow. Okay, a quick resumen. How do we use say with involuntary actions, okay? First of all, you can choose optional emphasis. A mí, a ti, a él, a ella, a vosotros, a nosotros, a ellas, a ustedes, just like you can with gustar. Then you always have to have se next. Again, this is not a reflexive se, remember that. Then you need an indirect object pronoun, me, te, le, nos, os, les. Those are our options, right? And finally, after that, you're going to choose the third person form of the verb, okay? Either singular, cayó, if we're talking about one thing that fell, or cayeron, if it's more than one thing that fell. Same thing with the verb olvidar. Olvidó for one thing that fell, in this case, la radiografía. Olvidaron for more than one thing that fell. Okay, cambien la oración. Okay, go ahead and change each sentence. See if you can make them involuntary say constructions. Okay, this is where I'm going to stop my presentation. You can go ahead and try both of these and bring your results to class tomorrow, and we'll talk about it. Gracias por su atención.